You should have these notes in front of you. If you don't, grab them. They're right on my desk. Okay? All right. So, we're starting with this picture right here. Okay? So, we've got y, x, and 5 centimeters. And this is 48. This is the opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. Okay? Remember, opposite is always across, adjacent is next to, and the hypotenuse is always across from the 90 degrees. Okay? And then we've got these. Sine is always opposite over hypotenuse. You should write this at the top of your paper. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And tangent is opposite over adjacent. Okay? We also call this SOHCAHTOA so that you can memorize it. Makes it a little bit easier. Can you guys see that? Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. Okay? So if we want to find the cosine, we have to have the adjacent on top over the hypotenuse. So my adjacent is x over 5. We write it like this, where we say cosine of 48, and then we're going to multiply it by 5. And that's how we get that this is 3.34 centimeters. Sine, we have the opposite over the hypotenuse. Sine of 48, we put that in our calculator. We get 0.7431. We times that by 5. Okay, so let's make sure we can find all those things in our calculator before we do anything else. So if I'm in my calculator, let's actually go here. Okay, if I'm in my calculator, 5. Okay. So if I'm right here, let me make this way smaller. Hold on. Somebody grab the door, please. So if I'm right here, okay, I've logged in. If I go to a calculator page, it's A. So I've gone to a calculator page. Right here, the trig button pops up, and I can hit sine of 48, and it gives me the answer right there. Yep. And I'm going to do it for, hold on. That's as small as I can make this. All right, we're going to go cosine. So we hit trig button. Do you guys see where the trig button is under the blue button? Or you guys have a yellow button? I'm going to do cosine this time. And I'm just going to type in 48 because it's the angle I'm dealing with. Gives me the answer right there. And then I hit trig button, tan, 48. Enters it right there. So this is different than my unit circle because your unit circle only gives you 30, 60, 45 degrees and adding onto that, where this can do anything. Okay, so we're going to use this information to do our others. Okay, so the next problem we've kind of have scaffold. The first problem was done completely for you. This next problem, it sets it up where this is my adjacent, opposite, and hypotenuse. And now we have to solve it. So I'm going to go to my trig button. I'm going to hit sine of 25, and I get 0.4226. I'm just going to do 4 decimal places. Equals y over 4. And then what is y doing to 4? Is it being added, subtracted, multiplied, or divided? So what's the opposite? Please don't talk while I'm talking. What's the opposite of dividing? Multiplying. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 4. So I'm going to times my answer by 4, and I'm going to get y is approximately 1.69 centimeters. Just do 2 decimal places, and that's why I did the approximately. Okay. Let's try cosine together. So I'm going to hit my trig button, scroll over to cosine, hit 25, and I'm going to do 4 decimal places. 0.963 equals x, 0.9063, x over 4. And then that 4 is on the bottom, so I'm going to multiply the top and bottom by 4. Both sides of the equation, times 4. And I get 3.63 approximately centimeters is x. We doing okay? And then for tan, I have to plug something else in. Let's plug in my x. So tan of 25 equals, I didn't know what one of them was, so I'm going to plug in x, y over 3.63. So I hit trig button, tan 25 gives me 0.4663 equals y over 3.63. Now I times both sides by 3.63, and I get my y is approximately 1.69 centimeters. There is no talking while I'm talking. Okay. So, see how we did sine, cosine, and tangent each time? Anthony, go get them. We do not have to do this every single time with them. So, for number 2, the most important part is we're going to set up what's the opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. So, here's angle 43. What is opposite 43? Is it nothing? Is it x or it's 10? What's opposite 43? X. What's adjacent to 43 or next to it? What's adjacent to 43? 10. Okay, so I've got opposite and adjacent. Which one of these, sine, cosine, or tangent, uses opposite and adjacent? Tangent. So I'm going to set this up. I'm going to write tan of 43 equals my opposite. That's how I know x goes on top. Over my adjacent, that's 10. Okay. Now, I'm going to put this in my calculator. I hit trig tan of 43, and I get 0.9325 equals x over 10. Now I'm going to multiply both sides by 10. And I get 9.33 centimeters is approximately x. Questions, comments, concerns about that? You should not be on your phones right now unless you want to give them to me. I will walk around and take them. You should not be on your phone right now. You should be writing this down. Everybody in here should be writing this down right now and be off their phones and paying attention. Okay. All right, let's move on to number 3 on the back. All right, the first thing we're going to do to this is fill it out. What's opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse? we're just going to list the two things it's given. If it doesn't have a side, we don't have to list for that side. Here's angle 48. What is x to 48? Is it opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse? Adjacent. What is 7? Hypotenuse. Okay, so remember I've got my SOHCAHTOA. Which one deals with A and H? Sine, cosine, or tangent? A and H. Cosine. So we say the cosine of 48 equals the adjacent over the hypotenuse. Do you want to see my shortcut where you only have to put something into a calculator once? I just times 7 both sides right away. And then I put it in the calculator just like this. 7 trig cosine 48. And I get the answer is x is approximately 4.68 centimeters. I'm just lazy. I don't want to put something in the calculator multiple times, so this way I just have to put it in once. All right. You guys ready to try number 4? Yep. That's as much as I can zoom in, guys. All right, let's look at number 4. We've got 70. What is y to 70? Is it opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse? Got 70 degrees. What's y to it? Adjacent. What is 12? Hypotenuse. A and H means we're going to deal with sine, cosine, or tangent. Adjacent means next to. Hypotenuse is across from 90. Opposites across from. A and H deals with cosine. Good. Cosine of 70 degrees equals adjacent y over hypotenuse 12. We're going to put this in our calculator. Please don't talk while I'm talking. We're going to put this in our calculator all at once. 12 cosine 70 equals y. 12 cosine 70. And so we get 4.10 centimeters equals y, or approximately. Okay, I'm going to give you about 5 minutes. Why don't you try the next 4 on your own? Try the next 4 on your own. Remember, step 1, we're going to list. We're going to label the sides, opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse. Next, you're going to choose which trig function. Then you're going to place it into the kind of formula where you have a trig function, the angle equals opposite over adjacent, or opposite over hypotenuse, or opposite over adjacent. Then you're just going to, whatever on the bottom, times it, put it in your calculator, and you're done. Try this right now. Gonna give you about 5 minutes to work on it. And I'll go over the answers. About 2 more minutes, guys. Yes.
You have both these together.
That's your opposite. That's your digit.
This is one you use.
You use both. That's opposite and oh, you're looking for X, so you can use either one. All right, guys, let's go over these. Number 5, here's my angle. This is my opposite and hypotenuse. Opposite and hypotenuse means you use sine. So sine of 39 equals opposite y over hypotenuse 8. So 8 sine 39 equals y. So y equals, this is what I put in my calculator, go 8 sine 39, and I get 5.03 centimeters. Number 6, this is my angle, this is my opposite, this is my hypotenuse, so again I'm going to use sine. Sine of 21 equals x over 11, so 11 sine 21 equals x. You thought what? It depends on what we're looking for. So since this is the opposite in the hypotenuse, you have to use sine. If it was adjacent to the hypotenuse, you have to use cosine. Opposite doesn't touch the sides. So adjacent is the one that touches the same side as the angle that's not across from 90 degrees. So it's kind of hard to understand. I like to think of it like, okay, Kaya is opposite Anthony, right? But she's adjacent to me. So that's how I think of it. Adjacent is next to, opposite is across from. Okay, the next ones I get to choose. I get to choose which one I'm looking for. I have this is my angle, this is my opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. I know I'm going to have to use hypotenuse. What do you think I want to use? Do I want to use opposite or do I want to use adjacent? Nope. So let's use adjacent and hypotenuse. That's my cosine. So cosine of 56 equals adjacent over hypotenuse. Now the reason I did these is because if we have an x on the bottom, what do I do? Remember, it's just like cross multiplying. We get x cosine 56 equals 4. Then we're going to divide by cosine 56. Okay, that looks really weird. But when I put it in my calculator, it's the same thing. I'm going to go 4 divided by cosine 56. And we're going to do another one just like that to try to make it a little bit easier. Okay. Here's my angle. That's my hypotenuse. That's my opposite. That's my adjacent. I have 3 things, so I get to choose 2. Let's try opposite and hypotenuse. Which one do I use for opposite hypotenuse? Sine, cosine, or tangent? Sine. So I'm going to go sine of 51 equals what goes on top, guys? What goes on top? We've got opposite and hypotenuse. Does 5 go on top or x? 5. Opposite always goes on top. Hypotenuse goes on the bottom. Okay. What do I do when I have an x on the bottom? I'm going to times both sides by that x, or I'm going to cross multiply. X sine 51 equals 5. How do I get x by itself now? How do I get x by itself now, guys? X sine 51 equals 5. Yeah, we divide. Sine of 51. Sine of 51. So x equals, and we put it in our calculator, 5 divided by sine 51. And we get 6.43 centimeters. Questions, things you want me to go over again? You were confused by something. Okay, you've got a good 15 minutes to work on your homework. Please ask questions of each other, and then if you guys don't feel like you have the right answer, ask me right here.